All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today, our objective is that by the end of this webinar, you're going to be able to know how to use the meta moment at home with your kids. And good news for anyone who has, I know 2 of you have middle school students. I just taught this lesson to middle school yesterday, so they should have an understanding of the meta moment and how to use the meta moment. For anyone with littler ones, I don't know that they've actually learned the meta moment yet, so you're going to be the first teacher of this tool to your kids, but a powerful tool for regulating emotions at home, and a good tool for us too as adults. So just a reminder about these 5 ruler skills that we're working on building to cultivate emotionally intelligent children and to cultivate emotional intelligence in ourselves. Recognizing emotions in ourselves and in others, understanding them. Why do I have the feeling that I'm feeling? Labeling them, putting a specific name on the emotion. And our tool, the mood meter, really helps us to label emotions with specific emotion words and help to develop emotional vocabulary for our children so that they can know the difference between feeling frustrated and feeling annoyed or feeling livid, and those are different degrees of energy and different feelings entirely. So labeling emotions and then expressing and regulating emotions, and our meta moment really helps our children to learn how to express and regulate emotions appropriately according to social norms and what's acceptable for us in society, and also for us as Christians. Obviously we have a certain standard for ourselves to live the gospel, which means that every expression of our emotion doesn't go, right? It's not like you're feeling angry, so however you want to express that, go ahead and express it. No, there are certain norms that we live by. It's okay to feel angry, but then how do you express it and how do you regulate it? So our meta moment's a really helpful tool for that. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. All right, just a reminder about these 4 tools. The mood meter, the charter, we've already spoken about in our previous 2 webinars. And today we're jumping down to the meta moments. And that's what our objective is for today. You'll be able to describe the meta moment tool and then practice using it. All right, so I just want to start with this quote, and you can go ahead and just read it quietly to yourself as I read it aloud. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In that space lies our freedom and our growth. That's a quote from Viktor Frankl. So I just want you to take a moment and think about what that quote means to you. So Viktor Frankl was a psychologist and a Holocaust survivor. And he believed that even under the most dire circumstances, people have a freedom to choose their reaction. So we can choose a strategy to regulate our emotions, and doing that doesn't mean that we're suppressing or ignoring our feelings. Suppressing a feeling actually takes mental energy, leaving us less available for everything else. So over time, it can have harmful effects. So we don't want to suppress emotions. Regulating is about choosing the way that we want to show our emotions and the way that we act so that it helps us in our relationships with each other and helps us to meet our goals. So this requires this pause that Viktor Frankl is talking about, this space, right? So once we can have a pause, we can contain those strong emotions in the moment and decide how we want to handle them. And we're giving ourselves space for more clarity. So the meta moment is a tool for building space, time between what triggers us, the stimulus, and this big emotional reaction, and then how we want to respond. And it helps us to make better choices. All right, so this is just kind of repetitive of what I just said. So this meta moment is this process for responding to emotional situations in a way that aligns our choices with our best self. So the meta moment aims to shift from automatic, unhelpful reactions to more strategic and reflective, helpful strategies. So I gave the kids an example from yesterday. I don't know if anyone saw, I did a tea with sister at 10:30 for the Giving Tuesday. And during the middle of it, I'm just super clumsy. I spilled my cup of tea like all over the tablecloth. And Sister Ann was sitting there with me. And, you know, she was like super kind, super calm. And it's one of those things where you could have a big emotional response about it, or even I, about spilling it, could have had a big emotional response. But just taking time to be thoughtful and reflect about who's my best self in this situation. And I think right now, when we're all at home with each other, all in each other's space all the time, it's easy to have these quick, automatic, unhelpful reactions. Can I get a hand if that's true for you? Like, yeah, amen. We're like, I actually was talking to a mom yesterday, and she was really discouraged because her little one is like driving her crazy, and she's feeling guilty about her responses because she's having these automatic, unhelpful responses. And you know, I think we have to take the pressure off ourselves a little bit. And you know, obviously, we want to have the best response possible, but it really, it's a work in progress, right? We're all a work in progress, and all of us are capable of having those quick, unhelpful, automatic responses. So it's building this skill in us. It's really a muscle that we need to exercise, this meta moment muscle. So we're going to talk about there are 4 steps in a meta moment. We're going to jump right in, mostly because this is just a 20-minute webinar, so we got to be quick about things. So 4 steps to the meta moment. The first is that we sense that something's happened, right? I can actually sense it in my body when I'm starting to feel really, really angry. My heart rate goes up, my muscles tense, my face might become my brow might become furrowed. I might distance myself from the person who's talking to me. I can notice in my body, wow, I'm getting angry. My heart rate's going faster. I'm clenching my fists. Okay, so when I sense that something's happened, I'm having an emotional response. The second step is to pause. Using our deep breathing strategy in that moment is really good. It kind of helps us to extend this pause. So breathing deeply, breathing slowly, calming down, avoiding saying something that's not going to serve us and that's not going to be a part of who our best self is. And breathing really will help us to do that. Actually, breathing gets more oxygen to our brains, and it actually helps us to think more clearly. So there's a lot of power in just taking a breath, or many deep breaths. Okay, and then the third step in the meta moment is visualizing our best self. So the third step is to see our best self, to consider how the best version of ourselves is going to act in this particular situation. So we want to take into account all the characteristics and all the values that are important to us and how we want to be seen by others. And then the last step of the meta moment, after we create that pause, we visualize our best self, is to strategize and then to act. So we choose the best strategy for the circumstances, one that's in line with our values and our beliefs, and in line with the best version of ourselves. So depending on the situation, you might choose a thought strategy, something like thinking about the situation in a more positive way, or using positive self-talk. Or you could take an action strategy, like taking a walk or calling a friend. I know for me, if I'm feeling a lot of stress, like high pressure situations, exercise is huge for me to get like regulated again. So there's a lot of connection. Obviously, God made us body and soul. So the physiological and the spiritual and the emotional all go hand in hand, and our bodies and our souls can work together. And we want to help that to happen as much as possible. All right, so let's talk about what we mean when we say our best self. Okay, so when we're thinking about our best self, it's the meeting of our personal ideal with our desired reputation. And the part where those two meet in the Venn diagram is our best self. So not only what values do I have, what personal characteristics do I want to emulate, also, how do I want others to see me? How do I want others to perceive me? So I know for me, I want to be kind. I want to be compassionate. I want to listen. I also want other people to know my kindness. I want them to know that I care. I want them to know that I'm going to listen, that I'm going to follow through, that I'm going to be consistent, that I'm going to be reliable. So this is our best self, this meeting of our personal ideal with our desired reputation. All right. So the last kind of thing to talk about is, what are some of these triggers in our own lives that elicit these responses? So I'm going to go back to the last page. What are these triggers for us where we have this big emotional response, where I'm sensing that, whoa, something's a little out of control in me, like I'm having this huge response? It could be a thought, like something I'm thinking about, or an interpretation of an event, like a meeting that I had with a friend, or a phone call that went wrong, or with a family member. It could be somebody's actions, somebody said or did something that offended me, or even a particular place, like going to a place from our past that triggers some sort of strong emotion, or let's see, or an event, right? Like for kids, taking a big test. For us, like a presentation at work that we're really nervous about. I know at home in quarantine, there are probably a trillion triggers, right? Because like everything that always drove you crazy now drives you crazy to like the 100th degree, right? Or like, I always hated it when you left your whatever on the counter, but now I hate it so much, right? And now it's driving me crazy, right? So it's good to be able to kind of maybe after this take time to list out, what are my triggers? Where on a day-to-day, in my normal day-to-day, am I having these reactions? Where am I not responding as my best self? Because then those are the places we need to apply this meta moment to. And helping our kids to identify, what are the triggers for them? I mean, certainly for siblings, sharing things, or for kids having to do homework and getting off video games. Like, I know for a lot of our kids right now, like they are addicted to video gaming, and parents are fighting this battle of like how much time they can be on electronics, and or for our middle school kids on their cell phones, and we're battling. So helping kids to kind of visualize their best self in that moment, and then actualize it. Like, my best self is actually super productive. My best self is moderate and temperate, and my best self doesn't excessively, watch Netflix or game into the night. My best self wants to be productive and well rested. And so I'm gonna, in this moment, visualize my best self, and then I'm gonna actualize it. I'm gonna put a strategy into place to make sure that that happens. So obviously that's really it. So I'm just going to summarize really quickly and then give you a chance to ask questions if you have them. I'm just looking at our time. I am consistently ahead of time, so I'm pretty impressed with myself on the time thing. So obviously being able to skillfully regulate our emotions is easier said than done. In one moment, we can be laughing with our children, and the next moment it can escalate into a very quick argument. Right? I know that I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. This is true in my family. My family can be like having a great time one moment, and then the next moment, like we're all screaming at each other, and somebody's crying, and somebody left the room, and somebody slammed the door. Like we love each other, but it can get like really heated really fast. So I know that that's probably true in your families too, because I know that my family is not an atypical experience. As a parent, you're not only working to manage your own emotions, but you're also helping to support your children to learn how to manage their emotions too. So that's a lot. And some of you have many children at home that you're trying to help to express and regulate their emotions. So the meta moment's this tool that helps us to have this space, this time between these big emotions and then the choices that we make, the decisions about where to go next. So not only can we take the meta moment when we experience a strong emotion, but we can also take meta moments proactively. So when we know there are certain situations coming up that we can kind of predict there'll be a trigger for us, then we can plan ahead of time for what we might do should that strong emotion arise. So for kids, like I know for a lot of our kids, math, if you aren't math minded, and I'm not math minded, so I felt this way in school a lot growing up, math can be a big trigger for them. So you might even say to them before they go to the math class or before they start the math work, hey, I know that this is really hard for you and you tend to get frustrated and want to give up in the moment. So let's think, let's do a meta moment before we even start. What kind of strategies can you use when you start to feel really, really frustrated? For some kids, it's not math, it's reading. Reading's really tricky and it's hard for them and they get frustrated really quickly. So we can actually teach our kids to be proactive about taking meta moments. And then for us as adults, obviously we need meta moments too. So we can know what those moments are for us that we can predict that we're gonna get frustrated in. I'll look at with you all just the homework like super quickly if that's all right.
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
The homework, okay, I'll share it with you. We love having, am I already sharing the homework with you?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so just inviting you to practice. So what's your personal ideal? What's important to you? What feelings or characteristics matter most to you? And then describe your personal ideal. And then consider your desired reputation. How do you want others to see you, to think about you as a parent? How do you want other people to describe you? And then after you do that, think of some adjectives that describe your best self. What does it look like? Imagine your best self through the day, through the week, through the year. And then write some observations about your best self's behavior. Now, I think it's important for us as adults to do this first for us, like apply it to ourselves before we bring it to our children. So I just would challenge you all to do this exercise yourself, and then also challenge you to bring it to your kids. If you've got a middle school student, we've already done an exercise of kind of generating what our best self looks like. So middle school kids have already done this, but if you have a little one, they haven't necessarily generated a picture of their best self. So it might be a good activity to bring to them too. All right, guys, it's been such a blessing to be with you. I love this. I look forward to it. But I look forward to being with you all. We'll be back together again on Monday next week.